All right, Genesis Invitational Week with my main man, Len Hochberg, here on Fairway to Heaven. We got to make up all that Super Bowl money that I lost this week. Fairway to Heaven starts in 30 seconds. And a very good evening, everybody. Welcome to Fairway to Heaven right here on the DSM Media Network. We're live Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, all over. You know the drill. Like, share, retweet, follow on all social media platforms. But if you want to get interactive with the show, head over to the DSM Media YouTube page. It's the place where to like, subscribe, but to drop your questions, your comments, your thoughts, your Tiger thoughts, whatever it may be. And this week we are joined by Len Hochberg, senior golf writer for RotoWire. It's an honor to have Len on because he's somebody I've been following in this 2-year journey at Fairway to Heaven for a long time. So I was really honored when I reached out to him, and he said he was honored to come on with me. So I don't know. There's something wrong here with Len. But good evening, Len. How you doing?
I am doing well, and I am honored to come on with you. I've seen your guests, recent guests, and so to include me in that category is an honor, and I'm looking forward to our talk tonight.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a very interesting tournament this week, the Genesis Invitational, and we'll get into it in a second here. But we're coming off Super Bowl Sunday, the biggest gambling day of the year, and then we get into Genesis. It's a great way for all these amateur bettors to kind of and fantasy people kind of to sway into football. There's no more football to kind of take up the conversation. You see that with the prize pools on Draftkings this week. Football's over with. There's going to be a lot more casual fans tuning in. So we got to find a way to get them to get interested, but make some money this week. Because I know I lost everything last week or this past Sunday. So, it's a really interesting the more people that will tune in this week to golf.
And I guess the fact that Tiger Woods is playing this week is going to bring more eyeballs to golf than more than the hardcore golf fan like you and me, and more casual fans. And now that football is out of the way, and baseball hasn't really started yet. So yeah, there's a big viewing window and opportunity for people to take a look at the Genesis and to maybe get a little action as well.
And Tiger notwithstanding, it's Genesis. Always drawn as a strong field, and this year with it having the boosted prize pool and everything else, I mean, it's as elite as elite. This is borderline Masters elite field here this week. Is it because Invitational is the Genesis is growing as an event? Is it more the money aspect of it, or is it a little combination of both? Why this week's field is so elite?
Yeah, it's a combination. This is one of the designated events. This is what the PGA Tour has done in response to Live Golf. They've created incredible purses in a number of events, and there are now 17 designated events this year in which they will have $20 million purses or more. And you're right, the Genesis always had a good field, but now it has a major like field. There aren't many guys who will be in the majors, in the Masters in April, and that's just 2 months away, that aren't here this week. We saw it last week at Phoenix, same field, pretty much the same field this week. Next week, a week off for the Honda, or not a week off. It's going to be a subpar field, but then 2 more big fields for Bay Hill and the Players Championship. I hate to get off on this tangent, but people are going to, we're going to get this same great field every week. It's going to lose its luster. I'm very interested to see what happens later in the season when we've seen 8, 10, 12 of these major like fields. It's something I'm going to really be interested to see what Golf Twitter thinks about.
Yeah. So Genesis, it's at Riviera Country Club out there in California. I know when we were talking off air, you're out in that area. You head to this event every year. So you have a very, very in-depth knowledge of this course. And the first question about the course I want to ask you is, because it is always a deep field, like I said, not as deep as this year, but it's always a deep field. But very rarely you see those elite of the elite golfers winning this event. You had Dustin Johnson a few years back win it at 9-1. But normally they come from the middle of the pack, the winners. Joakim Neiman last year, Max Homa the year before that. What is it about this golf course, Riviera, that attracts people, but for some reason, the elite of the elite can't win this event on a regular basis?
Yeah, it's a very difficult course. So you've got to be playing really well. And the thing is that you really need to be playing all parts of your game. I mean, this course demands every club in the bag. So if you have like just a really great putter, not going to be enough. If you had a ball hit off the tee, you hit it a ton, not going to be enough. You've got to have your approach game, you've got to have your wedge game, you've got to putt. Very difficult to putt on these POA greens. So when that sort of thing happens, it is a demanding course, but it brings some other golfers into play. That said, with the field this week, I'd be very surprised if we went really deep outside of 20, 25 to 1, whatever it is, maybe 10 guys or something in that window there.
Okay. So, I mean, yeah, like you described the course really well there. When you're looking and you've got your great article at RotoWire that comes out, I believe, tomorrow. Um, what are you zoning in on, like ball striking, off the tee? What categories and what stats are you zoning in on the most? Because obviously, like you said, it's tough to putt here. Short game, tends to come into play every single year here, with the greens being very difficult to hit. Greens in regulation always an issue here. What's your eyes going to first when you're looking at the golfers?
Well, I think the first thing I look at is tee to green. You've got to get the ball in the fairway. If you are in the rough here, the Kikuyu grass, which we hear about, which they'll say on TV, we could have a drinking game, do a shot every time they say Kikuyu on TV. But if you're in the rough, it's really, really gnarly rough. It's very hard to get to the promised land from the rough at Riviera. So you want to get the ball in the fairway, driving accuracy. Greens in regulation, the numbers are really low this week. And it's really crazy because the greens are big. Some of the biggest greens all year. You think greens in regulation numbers would be better, but they're lower. So greens will be missed. And then there brings in scrambling into play. So I'm looking at all of these things, and not everybody does everything great, but I'm looking at some guys who do a lot of these things pretty well, and hopefully not any of these strokes gained categories really, really poorly. But just a real balanced golfer this week can really play well.
How about the course history and the tournament history? When you're looking at it, is this one of those tournaments? Because to me, because it is such a difficult course and it is such an elite field, I want the guys that are performing well. But you go up and down the tournament history of the top names. You've got guys. Rory missed the cut here 2 years ago. Justin Thomas, has had top 5s and 10s, but missed the cut multiple times. It's kind of hard to find at the top of the board too many guys that have had a consistent, success here year in and year out. So does that play? How do you take that into factor this week?
It's tough because you don't know if a guy is going to have a good week. I mean, we never know if a guy is going to have a good week. But at a course like Riviera, it becomes that much more challenging because the golf course can really play defense this week.
Mhm.
So you find the guys who have played well most of the time. I do anyway. I consider that. And yeah, if he has a bad week 1 year or 2 out of 5 or 6, I'm still going to have to play that guy because because there are guys who never play this course well. And those are the guys you don't want. You definitely want to focus on some guys who at least have played well here a few times, and even if it's not every time.
Okay. Before we get to the board, real quick, we mentioned him for a second there at the beginning. Tiger Woods is in the field, 7,300, I believe he is. Uh, First time we've seen him in a competitive match in a long time since the Open. It's great that he's there, but for the casual golfers or fans that are tuning in for the first time now that the football is over, in my opinion, people should be staying as far away from Tiger as possible. Enjoy him being there. It would be almost a miracle in my mind if he even made the cut this weekend. I know it's not the hardest course to walk. I don't know if you've ever seen me post about it. I had a similar injury to Tiger. I almost lost my leg in a football accident, and that was 20 years ago, and I still struggle with it. And I can't imagine him walking any round of 18 holes or an 18-hole round, let alone 4 rounds in a row. The Tiger factor helps the tournament. It helps the prestige, but he's a guy in a fantasy or betting thing. You stay away from, right?
I agree. I agree. I'm going to write the same thing. It's great that he's there. We never know how many more times we will see him. This is sort of a gift to golf fans. But yeah, I mean, he played only 3 tournaments last year, and only one of them went 72 holes, and that was the Masters, and he can play that blindfolded. And he really faded on the weekend. He looked good for a couple of rounds, made the cut, and really did nothing on the weekend. So you're right. Riviera is not a hard course to walk. There's the very elevated first hole where you walk downhill. And then there's the really elevated portion after you get 18 where you walk uphill into the clubhouse. Those are going to be the 2 toughest walks for him. But it is incredible. And I've been thinking about this ever since he announced on Friday. It's not the golf that's preventing him. He can hit the ball as far as ever and as straight as ever and has all the shots. He just can't walk. And it's just a shame. But yeah, I don't see how he can really make a dent in this tournament. He didn't play well here when he was Tiger Woods. This is his worst course really of any courses. He played here more and never won. So yeah, no
is there anything chance to it? I mean, it kind of just popped up out of nowhere. We weren't expecting that tweet. I mean, it kind of took away for like a few minutes away from the Waste Management last week, and it kind of came out of nowhere. I'm like, yeah, he shouldn't be played or bet. But then in the back of my head, I'm like, it's Tiger, and if he's going to just randomly decide to play in an event, maybe he's in better shape than we realize. And now I'm sitting here trying to talk myself into if I do 20 lineups, I got to put him in one just in case. But I don't know. There's something in that thought process there that I'm trying to convince myself, even though I'm trying to convince everybody else to stay away from him.
Well, look, it's fun to play Tiger. It's fun to bet Tiger, and if he does well, then that's even better. But yeah, it's funny how it did take away from the Waste Management. But this is his tournament. If he's going to play a tournament, and it looks like he might want to play once a month, through the year. February will be this one, Riviera, then the Players, and then the 4 majors, and then he's pretty much done for the season. So if he can get 6 tournaments in this year, that would be 6 times that we see him, and it would be fantastic. So if he's going to play in February, this has got to be. He's not going to play the Honda. Come on.
Yeah. Would you even want to play the Honda at this point? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into this week's field and the price tiers and stuff like that. I almost want to. I normally start with the 10K and above. There's 4 names. You got JT, Rory, last week's 2-time defending champion of the Waste Management, now Scotty Scheffler and John Rahm. I almost want to just start and group Tony Finau and above in the same group, because I almost feel like any of those top 7 names, you could have put any price next to any of those names, Xander, Max Homa, Tony, and they would all feel like they're in that elite group. And just because of the depth of this field, somebody had to be in the 9K range and somebody was going to get left out. Your thoughts on this top from Tony Finau on up, how you differentiate in such a deep field? Because again, JT's missed the cut a couple times, but been great. Rory's missed the cut once, but they all have that winning potential this week. Obviously, you can only pick 1 or 2 of these guys to play on a weekly basis. So where are your eyes first going in this elite top part of the group?
Well, first of all, my eyes went everywhere, because there is something to be said for all of these guys. All these guys are great players. None of them is playing especially poorly now. They've all had some semblance of success at this tournament, although none of them has won it. Homa has won it. There's only, that the interesting thing, only 2 guys of consequence, Homa and Adam Scott, have won this tournament who are in the field. DJ is gone. Mickelson is gone. Bubba Watson is gone. Neiman is gone. So there's nothing to latch onto with really a former champion other than Homa. But you're right. You could make an argument for any of these guys. But what I do is I try and pick a few in each tier to tell people out, and to pick all of the top guys does nobody any good. I looked at Scheffler. First of all, coming off a win, hard to win again. He's
Hmm.
played well here. He hasn't played amazingly well here. He hasn't putted that well here. Always dangerous to eliminate Scotty Scheffler, but I eliminated him.
Hmm.
And I like Rahm a little better. Rahm has done as well as fifth here a couple of years ago. He's won at Torrey Pines a couple of times. If there's any course that sort of corresponds to Riviera and there's no real match for
Hmm.
Riviera in a comp course, well, you have the Kikuyu grass, you have the Southern California field. Rahm has played well there. So, going with Rahm over Rory this week, over Scotty Scheffler this week.
Okay.
Finau, who you mentioned, I like a lot. He's finished second here twice
Mhm.
in the past 5 years, and now he's a better putter, and now he's winning. I like him. Max Homa, California guy. I like him. Justin Thomas. Justin Thomas has not been fantastic with Bones Mackay on the bag, as we all thought this superstar pairing would come along and they'd be rock stars. And it hasn't happened, but he had a good week last week. He was fourth. He's not a great putter, but he's a good short putter. 10 feet it in, very interesting this week. One of the key stats. So I like Justin Thomas as well. Those are my four of that 7 or 8: Rahm, Thomas, Homa, and Finau.
Yeah, so I agree with you on Rahm over Scheffler and Rory 110%. I have a philosophy: you play the winner of the event and John Rahm, and that's how you base your lineups. And if you do that, if you pick the winner and John Rahm, you're going to cash in a lot of lineups. And that philosophy hasn't let me down, pretty much ever. So I love John Rahm there. People normally get scared of the most expensive priced guy. Um, I go then from John Rahm right down to Finau and Max Homa. First of all, a little side note: this is my Max Homa redemption story type week, because when he won it 2 years ago, I had an outright bet on him. He hit his. I don't know if you remember that first playoff hole against Tony Finau. He hit his tee shot up against a tree, Max Homa, and as soon as he did that, I cashed. I hedged my bet and I cashed out. And then Tony Finau screwed that playoff hole up even worse. Max Homa won it. So I need Max Homa redemption. And even though he's won this event before, I think he, just like you said about Tony Finau being a better golfer now, Max Homa is a much better golfer now than he was 2 years ago, in my opinion. And I think he's extremely underappreciated, actually, of how much he's grown as a golfer. And I think Max Homa could easily be in that Bubba Watson of a multi-time winner at this event. So I go to him, and then of course, like you said, Tony Finau. I almost could just skip the rest of the guys, even John Rahm. I won't skip John Rahm, but you could, and you could just start all your lineups with either Tony Finau and Max Homa and feel very confident this week.
And you might be able to, they're both in under 10,000. You probably can get them both into your lineup as well. One of the things, not to jump ahead, but it's 130 guys in the field, 65 in ties make the cut. More than half the guys will make the weekend. A lot of 6,000s are going to make the weekend. Don't be afraid of them. They're going to be there. You got to identify the right ones. No easy task. But yeah, you can load up 2, maybe 3 higher price guys and balance it down toward the bottom. So Homa and Finau could go together.
So can we pause on the bracket on the price things for a second there, because you're bringing up the 6K guys and the fact that a lot of guys are going to make the cut this week. And I've started a new philosophy. I used to have, because I've only been doing this for a couple of years, the fantasy golf. I started with the pandemic. It was the first sport. So that's kind of how I got into fantasy golf as a content creator. And I was always, I was learning from a few people, and I was always told, you got to keep your player pool super small, super, super small. And the tighter it is, the better. And the last couple of weeks, I've been trying to mess with a philosophy. Pick your top 2, 3 guys, whether it's Homa and Finau, whoever it may be. And then when you get into that bottom end group, the 6Ks, the low 7Ks, there doesn't have to be a set number. If you like 7 guys in the 6K range, play all 7 of them one time instead of picking 3 of them, playing 3 or 4 times. And if one of those misses the cut, that screws up a whole bunch of your lineups. So it gives you, in my opinion, a better chance to maybe win a GPP line or contest. It might not make every lineup cash, though. What are your thoughts on that whole philosophy there?
I'm of the feeling, if you like guys, play them. I don't understand why You wouldn't. I mean, if there's one guy you like so much more than anybody else, that's something else. But this whole thought about limiting yourself or not playing a guy if you think he's going to be highly owned, um, you know, there are six guys. You're not playing six guys who are highly owned. So, I don't have a theory on what to do and what not to do. But I think if you like guys and you think they're going to do well and you've done your research, play them.
You're reading my mind. That the whole thing on people that are scared to play people because their ownership might be a little high. To me, it makes no sense. You talk yourself out of playing the best players because they might be highly owned.
If you think a guy is going to win the tournament and you're not going to play him because everyone else is playing him, well, that seems ridiculous. You have five other options to differentiate yourself. You don't have to stay away from your favorite pick just to be, well, everybody else is playing well,
I love that you said that because that's kind of been the ownership thing has been something that's bothered me for since day one of being involved in this golf world here. So, all right, dropping after Tony Finau, the rest of the 9K range, you got Sung J M, Colin Morikawa hurt a lot of people last week, including myself,
Yeah.
Sam Burns, Patrick Cantlay. You can throw Victor Hovland and Cam Young into that range as well. Any thoughts on any of these guys that stick out to you?
Yeah, I got hammered by Colin Morikawa last week. In my RotoWire one and done pool, he was my pick. Talk about being done, burning Colin Morikawa, and who not even getting anything for him. So that really hurt. That was really you knocked me over with a feather on that. The Colin Moore misses the cut at a ball striker's course. It's so hard sometimes if a guy screws us, figuratively, to go back to him the next week because you just have such a bad taste in your mouth from him. But Colin Morikawa finished second here last year. He is so good. He actually had two other third place finishes earlier this year. We just have to view this as an aberration. He's not a good putter, but he does everything else so well that he could be in the mix come Sunday. So I do like him. And there are some other guys. I mean, Matt Fitzpatrick at 8,300, really 8,300. He's the number 10 golfer in the world. And Matt Fitzpatrick is a guy like Max Homa, maybe not quite as good right now as Max Homa, but if you look at all of his stats, strokes gained stats individually, they're not that elite. Maybe not top 10, but like Max Homa, I know the number off the top of my head. No top 10s in strokes gained in any of the strokes gained stats, except strokes gained total, the collective, he's sixth. So Matt Fitzpatrick is that type of golfer as well. Also looking at Sam Burns at 9,100 and Adam Scott all the way. I don't know if I'm getting too far down. I'm looking at my screen here. Too far down. He's all the way down at 8,000. I can hold off on him.
No, you can go right into it because you know what? There's so many names in this 8K range that I love to at least think about. So I mean, Adam Scott is Justin Rose. Those guys are always on my card on these events because people overlook them because they're not the big bombers, they're not the fancy names, but they're consistent golfers that are always going to make a cut. They're always going to be in contention, and you never know. One or two times you get those 6, 7 under rounds from them that just vault them up a leaderboard. So they're names that always jump out at me because they often go overlooked. But what I also look at in that range, if you want to stay down at the bottom, is a name that always gets overlooked as well, and that's Hideki Matsuyama. The fact that you get a guy that's won the Masters, and I think he's played well here before. Hold on, where? No, he's played in. He's had a couple top tens and then a missed cut 2 years ago here.
That's everybody. Couple of top tens and a missed cut.
How's he 8,200? And secondly, I brought this up with Chris Murphy last week on this show. He's a guy that never even gets high ownership. It doesn't matter the field. He's always in that 10, 9. I think last week in the event I was in, he had 9% ownership last week. It just doesn't. I don't understand the lack of appreciation and usage of Hideki Matsuyama.
Some of these things are popularity contests. It's not the best way to bet. It's the worst way to bet. It's the worst way to bet. But I like this guy. I don't like this guy. Oh, he's okay. I really want him to do well. And, Hideki Matsuyama, probably not the, I don't know I don't think he was in, maybe he was in the top 20 in the PIP, maybe not even, yeah, that probably explains why Matsuyama isn't there. Not a flashy guy, but he's there a lot. He's there on the weekend a lot.
I would say 99% of the time when he is in a field, except for during that little stretch, I always stay away from guys with back issues and withdrawal issues like that. But when he's healthy, Hideki, 99% of the time he is my I use him. I just can't get away from him. He was when I looked at the betting odds when they were released this morning. I went down, I'm like, where's Hideki? And I saw him all the way down 35-1. I'm like, sure, click, why not? Because you can't go wrong with putting some money and some stake in Hideki every single week. Back
Yeah.
up here though, because you brought up Colin Morikawa burning us last week, and the other name in this range here we skipped over is another guy that burned a lot of people a few weeks ago, and that's Will Zalatoris. We talk about people with bad backs and stuff. He looked healthy, so I have another theory, and it's when you're an elite golfer, and pretty much every name we've talked about, they're elite or just below that elite level. They're not going to miss multiple cuts in a row most of the time. So almost like people get scared of these guys, like Colin last week or Will Zalatoris. It's almost like the odds are they're not going to have back-to-back bad weeks. Any thoughts on Colin or Will Zalatoris that they trending what you saw from them in the wrong direction where you would just stay away from them for a little while?
Well, with Colin Morikawa, he had one bad week following two excellent weeks. He actually kicked away, what was it, the tournament, one of the Hawaii tournaments where Rahm ended up catching him. So I don't stay away from Colin Morikawa with one bad week. Certainly a great, great player. Will Zalatoris, he disappeared last week. We don't know where he went. As far as I know, we don't know why he didn't play. Maybe he announced that today and I missed it. Maybe he'll announce it in a few days, but you can only assume if he missed one of the designated events this early in the season, it was back related. So I'm a little shy. I mean, this would be a week where Will Zalatoris could really play well and has played pretty well here in the past. Now he hasn't really contended yet, but I'm going to shy away from Will Zalatoris because I don't know why he didn't play last week. I mean, I guess
he was in the original field list for last week, wasn't he? And then he just kind of, he disappeared there at the last second. Yeah,
right. Which is also if not a red flag, at least a yellow flag. So I don't know where he went, and maybe he'll talk in the next day or two before lineups lock, and who knows why? Maybe he'll have a good reason for missing it that wasn't back related, and you could pivot. But as of now, I'm a little wary of his back, and all these guys. These backs could go at any time. It's and there's a lot of them. There's a lot of them. I mean, Jason Day is playing like he's got a brand new back, and
he's a name that really intrigues me this week, Jason Day, because he's lights out. I mean, he's playing like Jason Day of many, many moons ago. But Jason Day here in the last, where is he? He's only played here once in the last 5 years, and he missed the cut. So it's like maybe this course doesn't tip. Maybe he just doesn't like playing here. I don't know what it is, but I'm almost willing to ignore the fact that he's only played here once in the last 5 years and missed the cut because, guys, is he maybe the hottest golfer on tour right now? Outside the Rahms and the Schefflers of the world, might be the hottest golfer.
The guy was number one in the world. He's at his best. He's a great player, and it's really fun to see him playing very well. And it's more than he just had a good week, and he had a couple of good weeks. Now he's playing well every week, and yeah, he hasn't played this course much, and this is a course where experience matters. But he's played it, and he probably remembers it. So I think he could have a good week. He wasn't in my picks, isn't in my picks this week. Not everybody can be in the picks there's so many good guys, and I may regret not picking Jason Day this week, but there are some guys I like more. But if you say you like Jason Day, I'm not going to say like you're crazy or anything like that. Yeah, he could certainly play well.
I'm an Eagles fan. I'm always crazy. Come on now. All right, let's continue down this board here. There's lots of interesting names, I guess you could say. Intriguing names. Ricky, we're still waiting for that first win. Everybody thought last week was a perfect setup. Wyndham Clark Keegan's had a great year so far. Corey Connors. I tend to go, my eyes tend to go to the middle of the 7K range first. The Adam Hadwins, the Brian Harmons, the Shane Lowrys, that area there. Keith Mitchell even, good guy off the tee there. Where do your eyes first go in this range?
Yeah, I considered Keith Mitchell. He's not on my list, but again, I can't pick everybody.
Right.
I like Keegan Bradley. Keegan Bradley's 21st in the world. He's the real deal. He's sort of had a career renaissance. He's learned how to putt.
Yeah.
It's amazing. If you just go from absolutely horrible putter to a mediocre putter and you are a great ball striker like he is, you can be in a lot of tournaments on Sunday and make a lot of money. And he was 20th last week, but he was in the sevens. I think he was 7,700 last week. He's 7,700 again. Then he'll justify his price. So great ball striker, good putter, and good putter, short putter, which you would think the bad putters, would be kind of jittery over the short ones. So he's pretty good there. KH Lee is really turning into a pretty good golfer. He's top 50 in the world. He won the Byron Nelson a few years ago, did nothing after that until he won the Byron Nelson again. And okay, you think he just wins the Byron Nelson, but then right after that, he started to play well, a lot of weeks. And, he's played this tournament 4 times, made every cut, 2 top 25s. He's only $7,400. Talk about a guy who can fit into every lineup. And then Moore, what's his name? Tyler Moore. I have it typed on my screen here wrong. Taylor Moore, 7,200. He had a couple of top 15s in a row at the Farmers and Pebble, I think, something. But to do it, then he did it again at Phoenix in that field to have another top 15 at $7,200. That's a pretty good guy I'm looking at. And there are my sevens right there, my favorite plays in the sevens.
I love what you brought up about KH Lee. KH Lee, there are 2 golfers in this 7K range that when we did our preseason kickoff show, me and my buddy Jason, before Century Tournament champions, I talked about 2 golfers that were my guys that were always, if you were playing the John Deere or the Detroit Open or whatever, you're playing one of the weak fields, it was KH Lee and it was Wyndham Clark. They were always my guys. But I said KH Lee and or Wyndham Clark were going to have huge breakout seasons this year. Wyndham Clark's not quite done it yet, but KH Lee has, and I'm surprised. I don't think we're going to get KH Lee at that price much more, even in deeper fields. There's going to come a time really soon where KH Lee is going to start creeping up to 79, 8K in the deeper fields. And then there's going to come times when he's in a weaker field where he's pushing that 10K number because I think he's the real deal, and I think he's going to win a bigger event at some point, whether it's soon, at least this year.
One thing we don't take into account, we don't know these guys' personal lives, and that's a real thing. I mean, he's coming from a different country and into a whole new culture, and could take time to acclimate. To imagine going to live in a foreign country where you don't speak the language and to be expected to excel at your job right away. It might take some time. So that I don't know if that's the case here, but that may very well be the case. I know he's acclimated in the Dallas area with a lot of the Korean players. He might have more of a comfort zone, and now he can be freed up to play better golf.
A name I want to get your thoughts on in the bottom half of this 7K range. He was a guy I liked a lot last week. He made the cut, but he didn't do quite what I thought. He had been playing really well in the European Tour or the World Golf Tour, whatever you want to call it. And that's Lucas Herbert. He's 7,200 in this field. Like I said, didn't have the weekend that I thought at Phoenix. What are your thoughts on Lucas Herbert?
Lucas Herbert, he's won a tournament. So, anytime you win a tournament, you have some semblance of skill. But he scares the heck out of me because he hits the ball all over the place. He, and this is a place where you can't hit the ball all over the place. He's a very good putter, and putting can cure a lot of, can mask a lot of mistakes. If you can hit a 15-footer for par, you can hit a few of those. You could save your round, save your tournament and stuff. But he is really wild off the tee, and he's really inaccurate. And yeah, that could change, but that sort of stuff isn't the sort of thing that I find that changes. Either you're good at it or you're not, and you got to get better. But you don't just have a really bad week of spraying the ball over the place. Either you're good at it or not. So he's a guy who certainly can get hot with the putter and be there, but I'm a little wary of him.
Okay, gotcha. All right, let's get into this 6K range here. Because again, like you said at the beginning, only 130 golfers. A lot of guys are going to make the cut. And there's a couple guys at the bottom you can eliminate right off the bat that don't have a chance. But in this 65 to 6,900 range, there's a lot of guys that are going to be playing on the weekend. And my eyes go to a guy that I liked last week and I like him again this week. And again, he's going to get that price bump eventually here this year, and that's Johnny Vegas. I'm guessing you're a Johnny Vegas fan as well.
I am this week. And when I started to do my research and I looked, I go, wait a minute, he's playing pretty well. I go, this is, he's another guy who can have a great week and disappear for weeks and then come back and play really well. But he top 25 at the Farmers and Phoenix. His putting is terrible. It's really terrible, but he is leading the tour, strokes gained off the tee, 7th around the green. So he's even chipping well, 2nd in tee to green. I mean, that's certainly, those numbers certainly get you to the weekend. And then if you make a few putts, maybe you could creep into the top 25, really hitting the ball well. That's always been his strength off the tee. Putting has been a problem. So 6,900. Yeah, I like him a lot this week.
Something that I always struggle with in this range when you're in the bottom half here and you're trying to find the guys that are going to make the cut or not. What do you? I mean, we already talked about this before with the course history versus recent form, but I think it's a tougher decision to make because you got like somebody like James Hahn. He's made the cut here 3 straight years. He was 15th here last year, but he's missed 3 of his last 4 cuts. Like, so somebody like him, are you going to zone in more on what they've been doing recently or course history? Any of these guys, because there's a bunch of guys that have made the cuts here multiple times, but yet are in awful form recently.
Yeah, there's no easy answer to that. I know exactly what you're saying. And it's really a case by case basis for me. Some guys just play well at a course every year. Maybe I'll look back to James Hahn. What did James Hahn do? Was he playing equally poorly coming into this week? And then Bing, Riviera saw, cure all for him. Mm-hmm. So I don't have him this week. I certainly considered him this week. He is, at some point playing well every year at a tournament ends for these guys as they get older and they get to be lesser and lesser players. And I feel that may be the case for Hahn this week. But sometimes it's incredible how a guy can be playing poorly every year and just come to a course and play well and then continue to play poorly. Just suits his eye.
I think that's the way it is for any golfer, whether it's a pro or an amateur, even at your local house, your home course, that there's certain courses. I know the one course that we always play around here, they actually just got shut down. It was my least favorite course because there's so many dogleg lefts on it. It just didn't suit my swing. But yet everybody else loved this course because it was the easy course around here to play. I just struggled with it all the time. Where else are you looking down here in this 6K range? Because we could go over a lot of different names here. There's a lot of different options down here.
It's funny because they did say about, a lot of these guys are going to make the cut and they will. It's just math. And, but when I look at them individually, then, well, they don't look so good individually where you just got to pick this guy to make a cut. But I always try and put 4 guys in the 6,000s into my article and at least one guy 6,500 and under, just to help people, if they got to go in that direction, if they want to go in that direction. 3 other guys I'm looking at after Johnny Vegas, 6,700, Sam Ryder. Went back to him last week after what did he almost won at the Farmers and Homa ended up catching me, ended up with a top 5. He had a great week. And he just looked good at Phoenix last week. He plays well there. Went to him. I think he finished 20th. He certainly had a top 25 last week. He's playing well in California. I don't think this is anything transformational for Sam Ryder, who's been a bit of a journeyman. I don't think this is going to unlock his potential and he's going to become a very good golfer. I think he's just in a good stretch now. Dylan Fratelli at 6,500. He's had some good weeks at this tournament before. It's really his thing. A lot of these guys down here, they have a few good weeks a year and they make all their money in like 4 or 5 weeks of the whole year. He's at 6,500. And Matthew Neesmith. Matthew Neesmith has some really good stats. He's a very accurate player off the tee and from the fairway. He really should be playing better than he is. His stats are better than his results. And I think maybe his results will eventually catch up to his stats. He's at $6,400. Gosh, if he makes the cut, then that's just a fantastic pull to have him in your lineup. But it's a gamble.
Matt
He's 60.
Neesmith, there was a stretch in the fall that Matt Neesmith was playing amazing golf there. I think he had like 3 top 10 finishes in a row in the fall.
The guys who hit the ball straight, they're good, accurate, off the tee. Maybe they don't hit the ball a ton, but they get the ball in the fairway, and then they have a better chance of getting the ball on the green. Maybe these guys aren't the elite players, and maybe they're not there. You're going to need something like that to win a GPP. We're going to have some $6,000 golfer finish in the top 10 to really separate yourself. But for a lot of the players, a lot of cash game players, you're looking to get 6 for 6 through the weekend. He hasn't been doing it a lot, as much as he should, but it looks like he could really do it this week.
I'm just looking at the rest of this range, and I hadn't even looked below the 6,500 range, this week yet. I used to do this thing. I used to call myself the 6K Whisperer, and I'd be able to find someone at 6,100 every week that made it through to the cut. But then that streak ended, and then I never went back to it because kind of was bad. But now I'm looking down here, and I'm looking at some course history and stuff like that, and I didn't even realize Luke Donald was in the field. Another guy that, occasionally just pops up in one of these weaker fields on a sponsor's invite or something like that. Won't make many cuts. Won't do much, but these shorter courses, and he's played here before and played well. And for some reason, my initial model, I don't know why I start his name. I don't normally do a model this early in the week and try to build stats this early in the week normally. But Kelly Craft, I start his name. So I'm trying to figure out why I start Kelly Craft's name. It's because he finished 9th here many years ago. So he's got some really good course history. Is there, if you had to pick one guy at this bottom range here that might make the cut, that 1%, that less than 1%? Because last week for me, I had Charlie Hoffman in 2 lineups, and he was 0.4% owned in the contest I was in. Where's that 0.4% ownership, making it through to the weekend going to come from?
Let me call up all the lower 6K guys again and see what we have. And I did look at them and just didn't see anything below Matthew Neesmith at 6,400 that I really liked. And Luke Donald is a great story. He did get a sponsor invite. I imagine it's because he's the Ryder Cup captain, and maybe Tiger giving a little zing to Liv. I don't know. But it is nice to see Luke Donald here. And he's a kind of guy and probably won't make the cut. He's 6,200, but there's always more than one way to get it done, even at a long golf course. And obviously, if it's going to be another way to do it, he's going to have to do it with his short game, and he's going to have to make some putts. I mean, Lucas Glover at 6,100 is a guy who should be able to just, in the past, has been a fantastic greens and regulation guy. And I don't know how that goes away. I know putting comes and goes and you get a little wonky with your putter and stuff. But if you're a good iron player, I don't know how you lose that, there are no iron yips that I know of. But he hasn't been playing well. But he's a guy who should be able to make the cut in this tournament way down at 6,100. Imagine if we looked every week. There are guys at 61, 62 that make the cut every week.
I had about a 7-week stretch last year of picking one every single week. And then that ended, and then it ended for like a three weeks in a row, and at 4 weeks in a row, I'm like, all right, we're going to stop that there. But there's always that one guy. And it's really hard in a deep field like this to even, I know you say some guys are going to make the cut down in this range, because there will be a guy at the top end that misses the cut, obviously, this week. But, it's really hard to differentiate between these guys. That's why I try to give myself as much flexibility now. I'm not playing Luke Donald this week, but say if I was, it would be one time only. You know what I mean? Because I'm not going to let myself, ruin 4, 5 lineups by playing a guy that, misses the cut or has a high chance of missing the cut. So this week, to kind of, as we wrap this up here, because we've gone through this whole card, I kind of have an idea where you're leaning. But we've talked about guys that Kyle Wills Outdoors that have disappointed the last couple of weeks when they're high. Who's going to be the guy this week that everybody's high on, but has a really strong chance of disappointing this week? Because I think that's something that people really need to try to find a way to find that one guy that might disappoint, kind of to save yourself a little trouble and stress, because I still can't get over Will's Outdoors a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I don't know if Will Zalatoris is going to play poorly. I suspect thinks he'll play well and be able to play this week, or he wouldn't. He wouldn't want to risk uh, future injury. I don't know. We talked about Jason Day earlier, and he's really a flavor of the month right now, and he is playing well, and he's a good player. I don't know how many weeks in a row any of these guys can play. Even Rory had a bit of a stinker last week. I what he finished 30 or 32nd, something like that. So
You didn't finish in the top 20. I know that.
yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I might shy away from Jason Day this week. Just don't think it's going to continue. And he hasn't played this course a lot. And when that happens, and it's been a big tournament, well, why doesn't he come here? I mean, he's here this year because he's in the PIP. He's in the top 20. He's really mandated to play this week. Plus, when there's 20 million, you show up and you try. But he has been coming here a lot, and maybe he doesn't think this is his place. So he's a guy I'm going to stay away from this week. We'll see. We'll see how that works out.
I love it. I love it. If you had to go all in and you could only make one bet and one lineup and pick one player, if you had a one and done this week, who's winning the Genesis Invitational this week?
I'm really looking at Tony Finau. Tony Finau has been runner-up here twice in 5 years. So it wasn't a fluke. He's done it more than once. He's playing really well. I mean, he hasn't contended so far in 2023, but he's got 4 tournaments of 16th or better. One was the 7th. He was 14th last week. I'm looking at his numbers. He's like 25th in putting. I bet you he comes here to this course and he goes, I've come so close twice here. I think he thinks he can win, and I think he can win. And, he's not Rahm or Scheffler or McIlroy, but he's priced higher than Morikawa. He's priced higher than Cantlay, Hovland, Zalatoris, Spieth. I mean, he's a golfer. He's a real deal, and the bookmakers think so too.
I actually agree with you. That was I said I bet Hideki right away just because I always go to where's Hideki's number, and if I like it, I bet it. That was my second bet I made was Tony Finau to win this week because pretty much everything you said right there, spot on. And man, if whenever me and whoever I have on as my guest agree, it's not normally good, but we're gonna hope Tony Finau pulls through this week because he's a different golfer and he's gonna win a major really soon. So this is not a major, but this will have that major feel to it. So I agree with you a lot on that one there. I hope he does. Len Hochberg at Len Hochberg on Twitter. RotoWire senior writer. I think I said all those words right there. Tell everybody everything where they can find all your stuff, and you got a show you're doing later tonight on SiriusXM as well.
Yeah, actually, it's a busy night for me and a busy week for me with Riviera. It's a fun week for me because it's my home course and my home tournament. Not my home course. I'm not a member. But I will be going. I do a weekly spot on RotoWire Radio on Sirius XM. I'll be doing that in about an hour, 2 hours from now. I go on Draftkings on Wednesday mornings on their show, The Sweat, and we talk about the Draftkings prizes for the golf. And my 2 articles, my Draftkings preview and my weekly recap of the tournament on the RotoWire website. And the DraftKings article is not behind the paywall, so anyone can just come and see that and see my picks. And that usually hits on Tuesday before the tournament on Thursday.
So I got to ask you real quick. So you say you go every year to Riviera, and this is something I've asked a lot of guests over the years because I haven't been to a live professional golf event since I've been a golf fan. Like I actually went to a bunch when I was younger, worked a bunch of senior U.S. Opens and different things in college and all. But as a fan, but also someone that covers it, what do you do when you're at these events? Do you follow one group, or do you pick one spot and watch everybody come through? I get a different answer from every single person I ask this to.
Well, I think, this year is a little bit of a wild card because Tiger is going to be there. So I'm going to try and get out and spend some time with Tiger. And it's hard because everybody else is going to want to follow Tiger as well. But when I usually go, I like to see as many holes and see as many different golfers as I can. And I never hit all 18 holes, but I go with a buddy. I mean, sometimes I'll sit in the media room and hang out there. But if I'm going with a buddy and just being a fan, I'll try and get to 12 or 14 different holes and see. There are a few spots that we've liked and know through the years. The sixth hole, the one with the bunker in the middle of the green, is great fun to watch, whether if they go in the bunker in the green or if they have to maybe hit a wedge over the bunker to the other side of the green, and you can get pretty close there. So I like to get into a lot of different spots. And on Sunday, you really have to follow the leaders. But I think the first 3 days, you can go wherever you want and just see as many different golfers and as many different parts of the course. And it's great fun.
Awesome. I don't know. I kind of feel like I would just gear towards my guys because I've got so much money on the line on a weekly basis, and I want to see if, like, this week I'd be following Tony Finau around. But again, when you're at a course like Riviera, you kind of gotta take in all the sights. You got to see, Scheffler, Rahm, Rory. You got to try to get a glimpse of all of them. But anyway, we're gonna wrap up Fairway to Heaven right here. I got to get Len out of here so we can get over to Sirius XM and get to that show. Len, I appreciate your time. It was a pleasure talking with you. A pleasure having you on. Your insight, top notch, my man.
Phil, it's great to finally speak with you. We exchange on Twitter, but I really enjoyed it and thrilled to enjoy to be here with you.
I appreciate it. Everybody have a great night. Again, like, subscribe, turn the notifications on, follow on all social media platforms. Fairway to Heaven is over for tonight. Stay tuned. I'll be back with Trending in the AM as I am every day and everything else on DSM Media. Everybody have a great night, and we'll talk tomorrow.